It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on The Platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.
We're going to kick it off with our great mate from the Raw out of Melbourne, and that is Geoff Parkes, because it is Bledisloe Cup time, and here I am in Wellington, all set to go to the Cake Tin tomorrow night after the function tonight. So, Geoff, warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us again, mate. And I'd like to say thank you very much for all the support that you've given this program over the last couple of years as well.
Beautiful words there, Marty, to kick your program off. And I know you're such a staunch sports person, but you're also, deeply connected to your friends and your networks, and particularly your audience. So, very heartfelt words, beautifully spoken. And if I'm just a wee tiny part of that, I feel very privileged. So thank you for that.
Awesome, mate. I was just saying, and you probably heard me before, look, I love, one of the great things about being in Wellington at test time is because it's such a compact city, you've been here before, you walk around the streets, the central city, you do your Lambton Quays, you go up Cuba Street. I've basically stomped all the turf I did when I lived here as a student and a rebel and an unemployed activist and all that bollocks way back when. And because it's test weekend, you bump into former All Blacks and former Wallabies everywhere, and you just feel like you're in that mood. You know what it's like when we're at the World Cup and things, and we were sitting there and Sonny, Bill and Morgan came up and we made room for them to sit next to us and things. You feel like you can go up and say hi to everyone. So I'm walking around acting like I'm best mates with all these people. Embarrassing.
No, it's not embarrassing at all. That's the great thing about rugby, and it doesn't matter where you are in the world, and there's always people going to a test match or getting having a drink or a feed before or afterwards, and that's the beauty of sport, and it's certainly the beauty of rugby. So and Wellington's beautifully set up for that. I know the city's
exactly
going through a little bit of a weird time at the moment in terms of the way things are in the CBD, but certainly on a weekend like this with the rugby test on, I'm sure it feels a bit like how it's always felt. So. Good for you to have that build up, be in town, and hopefully we get a great game tomorrow.
Look, and going out to the Plunket Club tonight, of course, I'm a Mickey Doo, so I'm not associated with Marist St. Pat's here, but grew up in Wellington, grew up going to college at St. Pat's Silverstream, so left footer, all of that kind of stuff, and so these are mortal enemies, so I'm going to have to watch my P's and Q's there. Apparently you're allowed to call them street kids if you're from there, but not if you're actually not from there. So that's been pointed out to me. But one of the other things is, and you know what these functions are like, Geoff, before we actually get into the Bledisloe Cup, you get to, sit on stage, and I'm doing this as a freebie, people. So I've been flown down here, of course. I'm not paying for the airfares and things like that, but I'm not charging any money or anything like that. It's a fundraiser, because they said to me, Marty, will you come down and help us out? I said, yeah, sure. What do I have to do? They said, well, can you sit on stage and interview Razor? Now, Geoff, you get asked to do that. There's nothing job about this, is there?
No, not at all. And it's just what you want to do. You want to get next to these people and look them in the eye and ask a couple of curly questions, and not to trick them. What you're trying to do is to get an honest response out of them.
Exactly right.
Or a heartfelt response out of them. So step out of that cliche environment where, they've all got the media managers hovering over their shoulders, and their job is to make sure that they don't say anything controversial or that, makes for a bad headline. And none of us want that, right? We just want them to talk like they would if we're having a beer with them off the record. And so that's the trick when you're in these interview situations, or even at a press conference, just to get them to answer an honest question. And in fact, last Saturday night after the game, and we had Razor come in, and he sort of said his bit, and I don't think anyone was really overly convinced in what he had to say. He was very happy that they'd had a hard-fought win and had the tenacity to scrape through. And, when you're leading 21-0 after a quarter of an hour, I think your sights are set a bit higher than that. But so no one really believed him. But in that environment, you don't get the opportunity to sort of to scratch deeper into that. But when Joe Smith came in, after everyone had asked about the game, I got him talking about the format for the Bledisloe Cup. And the great thing about Joe is that he does give sort of straight answers. There's no mind games or messing around with Joe. And he gave a pretty honest, straight answer about, maybe it's time for some of the people in charge to look at how the format is, because it's not that it's too... it's a mercy rule for Australia because they haven't won in 23 years. But we need to be talking about, is that good for the game? And maybe there's some tweaks we might make. And he gave a pretty good answer. And, of course, invariably that was the headline the next day and for the next couple of days running. And it wasn't so much about the game at all. And so he probably got told off for that. And if he did, that would be a bit disappointing. So I'm sure tonight, if you're in a club environment and everyone's got a couple of beers and Razor's relaxed, I'm sure it'll be a great conversation, Marty.
Look, and one of the things is, the old Chatham House rules, and I kind of insist on that. I mean, I've got no authority there, but, there are people at the club will as well, is that, listen, if you want to hear the best from this person, then put your phones down, no recording and no tittle-tattling afterwards, because we're all adults here, but I also believe the same as you do. I want to hear some honest answers, but I don't want them reported afterwards, and I don't want either him or Morgan or Sir Wayne Smith to think, oh, God, I can't really say that, Marty, because if I say that, that's going to be picked up or something like that. There's got to be the opportunity for that, Geoff, doesn't there, in this business? Because, look, all we want as sports fans, and please remember, people, that's what me and Geoff are doing this as a job, but we're both sports fans as well. That's all I want. I just want the honest answers. And as far as the All Blacks are concerned, all I want to know is, okay, when can we possibly see us piecing this jigsaw together? And I'm talking the first half against RG, most recently, 62 minutes in Joburg, and the first 15 minutes in Sydney. When can we get all of that together in an 80-minute pie and produce that performance?
Yeah, and that's a pretty reasonable question, right? And Razor, if he doesn't have the answers, will be, working his butt off to try and discover what the answer is, along with the rest of his coaching team. And so that's, it's a fair topic for discussion to get into that warrants more than just a few cliches. And the big thing now in sport is that it's so competitive. Sports really do need to think about how they engage with their audiences. And if fans feel like they're being shut out or they're being just talked down to or sold a bit of a story, it does turn them off. And they'll go somewhere where they get, more authentic content. And I think the All Blacks, in recent years have suffered from that, with professionalism and then with the side doing so well for such a long time. It became a well-oiled machine on the field, and it was sort of matched by the media machine off the field, and the way New Zealand rugby, it's sort of become a bit of a law unto itself, and that's not good for the game, right? It makes this disconnect between the professional game and the grassroots of the game. So these types of events, as you say, Chatham House rules, where someone like Razor, who is a deep thinker and he's a genuine knockabout guy, he can relax a bit and give his deep, honest, authentic opinions. They're really valuable for people in terms of them staying connected to the game.
Look, I want to know how it's changed him as well, and what he would have done differently. Now he looks back at the first 8 tests, because to me, and sorry people, we're just going to digress a second before we actually get into the nuts and bolts of this game, but for me, he's looked a little bit like a deer in headlights. No criticism, but that's just what he has. And I think the learning curve for him, I'm really fascinated to hear from him how he's felt about that, because Super Rugby's one thing, international rugby's another. And the other thing about coaching the All Blacks in international rugby is there is no time. You've had 8 tests now. How much more time do you need? You've got all the coaches that you need. You've known for a year and a half that you've got this job. The All Black standard is set. You were an All Black. You know that. There is no time to go, okay, I need, to experiment. I need to get better. I need to try all these things out. No. We need to win today, mate.
It's Only Sport with Martin Devlin on the platform. Brought to you by One New Zealand. Let's get connected.